Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to another look at some gubernatorial elections. We're going to start off in Arizona, and I want to talk a little bit about, this is a very competitive. This should be a competitive election. If Ducey were eligible to run for re-election, I'd say he should be favored. Simply because he's the incumbent and a relatively popular one. In 2018, a year when the Senate election went by a few percentage points for the Democrat, he won by almost 20. I think that Republicans still have a slight advantage in maybe state level politics. So gubernatorial election, they'll be slightly better because a lot of the Republicans in the state fit more the mold of the type of person who can actually win Arizona. We'll see if that's the case, but state-level politics tend to be slightly less partisan than national level politics. So, for example, that's why Republicans can win governor's races in Massachusetts and Vermont and Maryland, whereas they really can't win Senate elections. And this is in the same year. There's a lot of split ticketing going on in those cases. In terms of the Republican, primary, the Republican nominee for Secretary of State in 2018, I think he actually wound up losing, is running. Yeah, he only just barely lost. That was a decently high turnout election, which kind of surprises me, but okay. Maricopa County, he lost by the narrowest of margins, almost the same as he lost the state by. Just going to show you just how important Maricopa County is in Arizona. There's a former news anchor, Carrie Lake. Steve Gaynor is another. Dale McCarthy, kind of member of the Arizona Board of Regents. Matt Salmon, he's a VP of Government Affairs at Arizona State University, a former representative from two different districts. In two very different eras of politics. He'd actually, based off of that, I'd say he's actually, it would be possible for him to win. The general, whether or not he'll win the primary is a different question, considering that at the end of the day, the Arizona GOP is kind of self-immolating right now. Kimberly Yee, the Arizona State Treasurer, has also declared. A few others kind of Kelly Ward is mentioned, who is the chair of the Arizona GOP. We'll see. You have a few people who declined, including Brnovich, Gozer, Lesko, and Biggs. And I'll be 100% honest. I don't know who's going to win the GOP primary. The Democrats, they have the current Arizona Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs, who I think is a good candidate statewide. She was, after all, able to narrowly win her election for Secretary of State. Aaron Lieberman, state representative. I don't think he is of relation to... Actually, he might be of relation. No, I don't know. Marco A. Lopez former chief of staff for U.S. Customs and Border Protection during the Obama administration, and the former mayor of Nogales. Okay. Few potentials whom I've never heard of, and someone who declined. I'll be honest with you. Actually, other than Hobbs, it's kind of underwhelming for me who's up there. Though there are a few representatives, they're all listed as potential and not declared. I don't think they'd have statewide recognition. And then there's a libertarian who is declared and will probably be unopposed, United States Air Force vet, and a former candidate for Arizona's 9th, Steve Remus. I actually heard of him, which is weird. But the only poll of this race came in the final months of 2020, September. It was a very small sample size of 481 with a margin of error of 4.5 points from a Democratic-aligned pollster, Data for Progress, and it showed a generic Republican beating a generic Democrat by 3 points with 20% undecided. Because I'm going to be doing a no toss-up map for this, I'm putting Arizona in the tilt GOP category, but we'll see if that holds up. But I think it's reasonably fair given I don't like to go based off of one election. I want to see a pattern before I make a definitive call as to whether a state's allegiance is changed. And some people may say, well, what about Wisconsin? You're considering that almost tilt GOP right now. Well, Biden only just won that election. It was not anywhere near the average for Wisconsin. And it took maxed out turnout in order for Biden to scrape by a win. We'll see if the state reverts to type, but I don't think the driftless area is going to revert back to the Democrats, especially the way Biden has been trying to appease the progressives within the Democratic Party. Anyway, moving on to Arkansas. This is kind of a dull one because it's a very Trumpy state, which is a little bit weird because the South is not exactly the most Trumpy place if we're talking about the Republicans. We still like George Bush, okay? Trump does have an outsized influence in primaries, if that makes any sense. You've got the current Arkansas Attorney General, Leslie Rutledge. That, I wonder if... Anyway. And then the other is a former White House press secretary and the daughter of former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And then the lieutenant governor actually withdrew from the contest to run for attorney general. Obviously, Sarah Huckabee Sanders has the endorsement of both Trump and Pence. A former Georgia state representative has endorsed Huckabee Sanders, and that's Vernon Jones. And why are they... that is not going to affect the race at all. In the endorsements list, Kid Rock is listed as an endorsement. Okay, really scraping the barrel there for endorsements. Just terrible. Terrible. There's good, there's not good. Listing Kid Rock as a significant endorsement is not good. That's crazy. Like, that's just crazy. In the Democratic primary, you have a public school teacher and, Democratic nominee for lieutenant governor in 2018, Anthony Bland. Kind of interesting that can happen. Chris Jones, the executive director of Arkansas Regional Innovation Hub. a small business owner who I've never heard of. I mean, not that I've heard of Chris Jones either, but and then an entrepreneur I've never heard of, and I'm not even going to attempt to say that person's name. The candidate for governor in 2018, there's not even a Wikipedia article about her. Oh my god. Oh, that is hilarious. I'm really curious about that one. Letitia Sanders. I mean, yeah, I knew she was. Doesn't. Okay, that's weird. Oh, it says candidate, not nominee. Okay, okay. That makes a lot more sense. God. And basically no one. No one else. Also, former governor of Arkansas is endorse the person whose name I cannot or am not going to attempt to say, and a former Associate Justice of Arkansas Supreme Court, but that I guess makes sense because that person is the candidate's husband. Nice. And third party, okay, no one really important. This is one who's even listed as a Republican. Anyway, Libertarian, we have one of the better performers for the Libertarian Party in statewide elections. The nominee for U.S. Senate in 2020, Ricky Dale Harrington Jr., who is a Christian missionary, prison chaplain, and like I said, he was the nominee for U.S. Senate for the Libertarian Party in 2020. And I suspect almost all of his votes in 2020 in that election came from Democrats. He won 33% of the vote. And actually, I want to say, was there... But there was actually a point in time when he almost got 400,000 votes, which in Arkansas is pretty good. And if we move back to the previous election in this, let me see. Oops. But, you know, he only won 3 counties, and, you know, I don't really think that's too much of a surprise that he lost. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, I think the smart thing to do is rate this as safe Republican, because no matter who actually runs for the governor's race, I don't really see it going the other direction. Anyway, that's going to end it for tonight. Hope you all enjoyed. See you next time. Take it easy. Have a very, very lovely evening. And have a very, very awesome 4th of July weekend. Happy Independence Day, everybody. And please enjoy a little bit of historical trivia. Today is the day, way back in 1776, that the Continental Congress voted on whether or not to declare independence. So, yay, historical trivia. Oh, and also New York abstained from that vote, so it was 12 to 0 to 1. Anyway, bye all.